back to another Coffee and Heroes podcast as we now take you into our previews show. This is the show we do once a month, going through the previews books, DC, Marvel, and the independent book, and talk to you about the titles that we're looking forward to the most, which are coming out a few months from now. So this is going to be the March previews books for mostly May releases, but a few beyond that as well. So your host is always Alan, the owner of Coffee and Heroes in Belfast, and joined as always by Mr. Keith Miller.
Hello there.
Looking forward to seeing how much our wallets are going to cry in the month of May.
Yeah, we're both being very, very careful.
We are.
We're both being very careful to make sure that our pull lists are down from what they were certainly last year. Just trying to maximise the quality, maximise what's left in our wallets at the end of the month. It's not always successful, but I'm getting there.
I think we're both in pretty good shape with it, I have to say. I mean, a lot of the things we're going to talk about, certainly from the DC book, are things that we already read and own, but it's just more of a case of letting you guys know about collected editions that are coming out of some of our favourite titles, certainly ones not to be missed out on. With the Marvel side of things, there's always lots there as well, and then the indie books look quite solid as well. So, I mean, speaking of the company sort of one at a time, I mean, with DC, one thing I have noticed over the last couple of months is it's a relatively tame month for DC, with only one brand new single issue series making the cut for me. There is a seminal event from years past, stop me if you've heard this one, celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. Stop me if you've heard this one. So DC will be releasing all 12 issues, stop me if you've heard this one, in facsimile form over a 12-month period.
Indeed.
One a month.
Wow.
That'll sound eerily familiar.
Wow. I was kind of wondering whenever they re-released the facsimile editions of Secret Wars, Marvel, how long it would be before Crisis followed up.
Absolutely. But there are plenty of great series continuing, of course, and the beginning of the end, unfortunately, for one of our favourite creative teams run. Keith will try to get through that without too many tears. But what the DC book lacks for me in substance, certainly in single issues, it more than makes up for in collected editions. You know, there are trade paperbacks for some of the best series of the past year being released, so plenty of opportunity to catch up there. There's a deluxe hardcover coming for one of DC's best series of the last decade, and some absolute editions and compendiums that are already making my wallet cry. So that's the DC book. What's the Marvel book looking like? They
say that, April is kind of, it's a funny month. It's wet and windy, and then by the end of the month it's a wee bit calmer, and we're coming towards summer, and that sort of thing. But the showers that we're seeing in April and May from Marvel are showers of blood, and that's because
seamless.
That's because of Bloodhunt, the Vampire Avenger Blade crossover that Marvel are hitting in a big way in May. And whenever we say big, we mean huge, because it's gonna cover nearly 60 issues, I think, of comics, counting the main series, the extra bloody Red Band edition, and all the tie-in limited series, the one-shots and the ongoing series. Yeah, so that's quite a lot. I think there are about 8 limited series tying in across that 3 or 4 issue run for each. We've got characters like Black Panther, the Midnight Suns, Union Jack, Blade's daughter Brielle, and meanwhile there's also a bunch of ongoing titles that tie directly into Bloodhunt: Avengers, Amazing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and a load of others. Not to mention a bunch of one-shots, including the Hulk, Werewolf by Night, and a whole slew of X-Men stuff. But Bloodhunt is not all we have for Marvel in May. There's also a load of fun for some with Deadpool and Wolverine World War III, which obviously is coming out ahead of the Deadpool movie. It's written by Joe Kelly, who made Deadpool into kind of some of what he is today. Obviously Rob Liefeld created him, but Joe Kelly had a lot to do with the evolution of Deadpool. There's Doom #1 by Jonathan Hickman and Sanford Green. I mean, it's got Jonathan Hickman's name on it. I'm all over it, which tells the future tale of Doom's last stand against none other than Galactus. We've also got we've got a big number for Wolverine. We've got a 50th issue for Wolverine that brings the Sabretooth War arc, which has been equally bloody.
It didn't need a Red Band edition
to an end, and that's a celebratory issue that toasts both the 50 issues of this series, but also 50 years of Logan himself, which is something. So there's a bunch of stories in there, including one I think by Larry Hama. A book that you've really been appreciating is Avengers Twilight, and it's been a great series. As you said, it's kind of Dark Knight Returnsy vibes, and also Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That sort of jam. It comes to an end in May, and we'll see how Chip and Daniel Acuna finish that off. So yeah, packed month for Marvel. Whether you choose to go down the Blood Hunt route, I'll be going down it in a slightly conservative way. I'll be taking the main series and a few bits and pieces of stuff I'm interested in, but we'll talk about that later.
I think you always have the best idea when it comes to events. It's either follow characters you like or follow creators you like. Don't, in a weird way, fall for the whole thing, because events are never... Every issue is never essential. Or if it is essential, they're doing something wrong if every issue is essential. Yeah. So yeah, just pick and choose, guys, by the characters you like or the creators you like, that kind of thing. I mean, my main takeaway from the Marvel book this month is Garth Ennis is a genius, because he has managed to bring back Punisher, but not put Punisher in the title. But we'll get to that as well. And then, of course, you have the indie book as well, which is quite a nice spread this month. You know, we've got stuff from Image highlighted. We've got stuff from Dark Horse, Dynamite, IDW, Ablaze Comics, Mad Cave, and Boom Studios as well. You know, plenty of number ones. There is one or two graphic novel collections that are very exciting, including one from Image that is up there with our favourite titles of last year, getting its first trade paperback. There is a Boom series Keith and I have both been enjoying, which hits its final issue this month as well. Some celebratory issues, and also a little look at how the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are going to be moving forward as well, because I believe there's exciting things happening around that franchise. So we'll certainly get to that as well.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in this book, but obviously the news broke Jason Aaron's taken over TMNT, and there's a lot of excitement around that as well. So we'll jump straight into the books, as I say. I mean, again, with DC, it's definitely a lighter month. In terms of brand new number ones, literally one title made the cut for me, and I'm not even sure it made it for you, which is fair enough. But this is one that definitely speaks to me, which is The Boy Wonder number 1. And the reason it speaks to me straight away is because it stars the best Robin, Damian Wayne.
See, you managed to get that in before I could open my mouth.
Absolutely. You know, I just wanted to see that disapproving look across the table. So this is going to be a 5-issue miniseries written and drawn by Juni Ba, which is a visionary artist. Juni Ba makes his mark on the timeless story of Batman and Robin, synthesizing the character's complex history into an accessible and heart-rending fairy tale. So the young Prince Damian Wayne was raised to be the heir to the fearsome League of Assassins, to follow in the footsteps of his deadly mother Talia and the Demon's Head himself, his grandfather Ra's al Ghul. But everything changed when his father, the Batman, reclaimed him and brought him back to Gotham. As Robin, young Damian suddenly discovered he was merely one of a number of princes preceded in the role by his brothers, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Red Robin. And Damian doesn't care to be merely anything. But when his father is forced to leave the city on urgent business and a rash of abductions is accompanied by whispers of a demon stalking Gotham's dark alleys, Damian will find himself battling alongside his adoptive brothers, and in the process learning what the mantle of Robin really means. Maybe that description might have you interested with a little bit of Dick Grayson love in there.
Did you say the creative team was on that?
It's an artist called Juni Ba, who's both the writer and artist.
Right, okay.
So it's very much one of those creator-driven titles. Almost a manga-esque style, I would say.
That's what it was that put me off it.
But when I say a manga type style, I would also say very close to the animated series style as well. I mean, you only have to look at that preview page in the bottom left-hand corner. That's the Nightwing animated series design right there.
Very much so.
So there you go. Keith's all in. It's not even premium plus silly size.
And you mentioned his name, so I'll pick up where you left off.
Seamless.
And that is with Nightwing number 114.
He's going to try not to cry here.
The news came out not long ago that we are heading towards the end of the fabulous run by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo on Nightwing. And tears were shed whenever that news came out. So number 114 brings the beginning of the end. That is the beginning of the fall of Grayson. It's a 5-part story. The Eisner Award-winning duo of Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo reunite to tell Nightwing's greatest story yet. The culmination of Heartless's sabotage on Nightwing reaches its dramatic climax when Nightwing loses his ability to leap, impeding his duties to be the superhero we know and love. That is poignant because obviously the series started with leaping into the light, and it's finishing with him having lost his ability to leap. Fantastic stuff, all in from Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. And while I am not looking forward to this, I'm really looking forward to this.
you could be in trouble as well, I think, with some of those covers, because you've got your traditional cover A by Bruno Redondo, which is great as always, with Haley or Bitewing, whatever name you prefer, walking side by side with Dick up in the snowy mountains. But that Dan Mora cover, oof, and the Daniel Samper variant cover where they've made the mountains into the Nightwing symbol.
Oh yeah, it looks good.
Those
as
are some
well.
cracking
Yeah,
covers.
absolutely. You're not a huge Superman fan, but House of Brainiac does continue in Action Comics 1065 and Superman number 14, and I think we've got Superman and Lobo in there. But yeah, that hasn't started yet, but I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, just worth mentioning, because as you say, there's going to be a House of Brainiac special, which is going to unite the titles, and then it runs through Action Comics and Superman as well. I mean,
not a hard crossover because I'm already on both of them.
And they're both written by Joshua Williamson as well, so perfect synergy with the two. I mean, it's almost like he's doing something similar with Duke and Cobra Commander.
Yes,
and that man knows how to tie two separate books together.
Certainly does.
So yeah, continuing through the book, as I say, there's tons of great stuff that is certainly continuing. Batman, Superman, World's Finest, things like Wonder Woman, things like The Flash from Cy Spurrier, Green Lantern continuing, Titans from Tom Taylor. So there's still, and Green Arrow as well. So there's still plenty of great stuff there. But in terms of other ones that you might want to jump in on this month, I'd mentioned in the intro about obviously Marvel reprinting Secret Wars this year, 40th anniversary. A new facsimile reprint each month. So number 1 out in January, number 2 out in February, etc., etc. So it was only a matter of time before DC did the same thing, and they have not disappointed. So Crisis on Infinite Earths, the seminal DC event that came out the same year as Secret Wars, just a few months later. If you've never read about it in this great book called Slugfest that Keith and I have both enjoyed, which is all about the decades-long rivalry between DC and Marvel, there's a lot of scuttlebutt about who came up with the idea first. Did DC come up with it first, and did Marvel just implement it first, etc., etc.? So it's really not surprising to see that competitive spirit's still alive and well. So yeah, Crisis on Infinite Earths was all about essentially uniting the DC universe into one sort of timeline. And what they're doing is they're doing the same thing with a facsimile a month. So this kicks off on the 16th of April. Crisis on Infinite Earths number 1 facsimile, written by Marv Wolfman, art by the seminal George Perez the whole way through as well, of course. And similar to Secret Wars, there's both a traditional cover option and a foil
shiny
cover.
One.
Of course there is. Why would they miss that chance? So Crisis on Infinite Earths, heroes will live, heroes will die, and the DC universe will never be the same again. The premier issue of the landmark series that forever transformed the DC universe and the superhero landscape is faithfully reprinted in a vibrant, full facsimile edition. So I have no doubt that will prove popular in store, because people are very much enjoying the reprints of Secret Wars as well.
Good stuff.
So that pretty much leaves it, as I say, in terms of the single issues in the DC book, but there really are, guys, some fantastic collections this month, including some of our favourite books the last couple of years.
Can't help but notice that these next 3 that we've chosen have something in common.
They do, and I must admit I put all 3 of them down before I saw the connection. And the connection, of course, is my traditional fully paid up member of the Cult of Keen status. And that is because the next 3 books are all written by Tom Keen, and of course they all look gorgeous because every artist in DC's stable wants to work with Tom Keen. Clearly, he always has his picks of the best artists. So the first one of that is Wonder Woman. It's subtitled Volume 1 Outlaw. If you've listened to the pod before, you know how much I rave about this title. Keith similarly.
So good.
Considering the blurb for it is an intelligent thriller with a complex story, I mean, that in itself, I don't mean to denigrate Wonder Woman, but the first thing I think of isn't a complex thriller.
Yeah.
But that's what Keen has managed here with artist Daniel Sampere. So when an Amazon is accused of mass murder, Wonder Woman must find her before an elite US strike force does. Failure will mean all-out war between America and the Amazons, but that's exactly what the mysterious mastermind called the Sovereign wants. Diana faces her ultimate challenge in Wonder Woman Volume 1, collecting the first issues from writer Tom Keen and artist Daniel Sampere. Decades from now, we meet Trinity, the teenage daughter of Wonder Woman, in a story that pits Diana against Giganta, Dr. Psycho, Silver Swan, and more, and introduces the Sovereign, whose lasso of lies may prove more powerful than Diana's powers of truth. So this collects the first 6 issues of Wonder Woman, and it also includes the story from Wonder Woman 800 that introduced this run from Tom Keen and
the wee
Sampere.
backstories as well.
Exactly, so this is a great collection, guys. It's going to come in at a $20 price point, so £17-18 thereabouts. And is well worth your time and your investment because it is awesome.
A second Perfect Bound trade paperback coming in at that sort of $20 price point. And also from Tom King is The Penguin Volume 1, which is going to be released. It's actually a pre-solicit. It's been released on June 25th, I believe. The infamous villain's hard-boiled tale of redemption and revenge. The Penguin, the king of Gotham City's criminal underworld, has died and is continually living in Metropolis in a not-so-well-deserved retirement. With his children fighting over his vast criminal empire, the once great crime boss is cooking dinners with his girlfriend and buying expensive suits until the US government enlists the Penguin as their agent to take back the Iceberg Lounge and his empire. To become the man he once was, Penguin must collect the right pawns and employees by using every wile and wit at his disposal. Totally reminds me of the Rick and Morty episode. You son of a bitch, I'm in. But very, very different. It's from award-winning and best-selling writer Tom King, formerly writer of Batman, Batcat, The Human Target, and the book we're going to talk about next. And artist Rafael de la Torre, formerly of Daredevil, comes a bloody, hard-boiled tale of redemption and revenge. This collects issue 0 right through to 7, which isn't actually out yet. The last issue we read was
7. Yeah, 7 is out.
It's out,
so it is. Yeah, we haven't got
yeah.
to it in our review show, but if you want to check out a detailed look at issue 6, definitely check out our January review show. But again, that's coming in at that $20 price point, and that's for 8 issues of absolute brilliance.
And it's phenomenal stuff. Hard boiled is a really good way to put it. It's got that noir sort of vibe to it. It's retconning a wee bit of that relationship history between Batman and Penguin, I think. So very, very good stuff. So another one from the House of King and also the House of L. We have Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the deluxe edition hardcover. Alan put this down. I pinched it because it was one of my top books of the year last year. Named by James Gunn as an influence for Gods and Monsters, the first chapter of the new DC Universe and television slate, this story will be adapted as the upcoming film Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. It's Supergirl like you've never seen her before, and a character-defining sci-fi fantasy masterpiece from Mr. Miracle writer Tom King and Wonder Woman artist Bilquis Everly. Now in stunning deluxe edition hardcover. Kara Zor-El has seen some epic adventures over the years, but now she finds her life without meaning or purpose. Here she is, a young woman who saw her planet destroyed and was sent to Earth to protect a baby cousin who ended up not needing her. What was it all for? Wherever she goes, people only see her through the lens of Superman's fame. Just when Supergirl thinks she's had enough, everything changes. An alien girl seeks her out for a vicious mission. Her world has been destroyed and the bad guys responsible are still out there. She wants revenge, and if Supergirl doesn't help her, she'll do it herself, whatever the cost. Now a Kryptonian, a dog, and an angry, heartbroken child head out into space on a journey that will shake them to their very core. This collects Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, number 1 to 8, the complete story. It is a hardcover, it's case-bound, dust jacket. It's coming in at that $50 price point, but it is well worth it.
Worth every single penny. As you say, it was, I think, in our top 3, top 4 books of the year it came out. I think it went across 2 different years by the time all the issues were out, but yeah, it was never far away from our reviews, pods, and recommendations. And just as I say, 3 picks in a row were Tom King. Sorry, it's 4 picks in a row were Tom King.
Right?
Yeah, because the 4th one is another one for me, which is the Absolute edition of Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerads. You know, this book means something special to me as well, I should say, you know, outside of just loving it as it came out. But when I was in the hospital waiting for Alfie to be born, this is what I said and read. Because Tom King's inspiration for this was his fear of becoming a father.
Oh, really?
So that's why in Mr. Miracle, like they walk into like wars and battles like so calmly and quietly, like, oh, this stuff's easy, but parenting in it is hard. So this holds a special place for me. But yeah, it's been given the absolute treatment, which of course is the oversized edition, hardbound, slipcase, the whole enchilada, so to speak. So. Absolute Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerads, the Eisner Award-winning limited series in absolute format. Scott Frey is the greatest escape artist in the universe. Time and again, he's thwarted Darkseid's forces from invading Earth and New Genesis, and his nail-biting exploits have made him a celebrity. But beneath the fame, his perfect marriage and his seemingly perfect life, something is eating away at him, making him question whether he can pull off the ultimate trick, escaping death itself. From Eisner Award winners Tom King and Mitch Gerads comes a tale of war, family, and self-reflection, full of humour and heartbreak. This absolute edition of the critically acclaimed limited series collects Mr. Miracle 1 to 12, original script pages, development art, commentaries from the creative team, an exclusive new cover, and more. Genuinely one of the best books of the last 10 years. I mean, that was part of the sort of Tom King 1-2 punch from Marvel to DC, where he did Division with G.H. Walter and then did Mr. Miracle. with DC. That very much established his reputation, I think. And then the last one for me when it comes to DC is an omnibus collection, which is perfectly timed given that I recently got the Batman Animated Series Adventures Omnibus. And now we have the Batman and Robin Adventures Omnibus as well. So this is an advanced solicit due out on the 9th of July. Written by Ty Templeton, Paul Dini, Hilary J. Bader, and Kelly Puckett. With art by Ty Templeton, Rick Burkett, and others. The Cape Crusader and Boy Wonder return for another rousing round of adventures in this companion volume to the Batman Adventures Omnibus. Collects the Batman and Robin Adventures 1 to 25, the Batman and Robin Adventures Annual 1 and 2, the Batman Adventures The Lost Years 1 to 5, and the Batman and Robin Adventures Sub-Zero number 1 and more. And just look at that cover. I mean, it's just glorious. Yeah, it's
fantastic.
So elegant, so simple, but so effective. So yeah, as I say, DC's book this month I think is definitely high in quality in terms of collected editions, certainly. And there's definitely a few there that, as I say, are making my wallet cry. But that is the DC book. Do pray tell move on to the Marvel book, and we'll just kick things off with the Marvel book. We did talk about it last month because it was solicited in last month's book.
It was right at the end of the month, though.
But it doesn't actually start exactly until the start of May, and that is Bloodhunt. So as Keith alluded to in the intro, Bloodhunt is Marvel's big event, vampire based. Jed MacKay on writing duties, Pepe Larraz on art. It's going to be a 5-issue miniseries for the main series. There's going to be tons of tie-ins, which Keith's going to jump into a couple of in a moment. But the other thing to just make clear on Bloodhunt is it's going to come out in 2 different editions. Thank you, Zack Snyder. You're going to have the traditional one, which is 40 pages, but then you're going to have a 48-page version, which is called the Red Band edition. This is a gorier, more adult edition, and it's also going to be polybagged, so I'm sorry, you won't be able to sneak a look at it in the shop. The bloodiest Marvel event ever. The skies have gone dark, the sun hiding its face from the carnage to come. The children of the night, the vampires have risen from the dark and hidden places of the world.
Children of the night, shut up.
As want to drown the Marvel universe in blood. Earth's final night has fallen. Can the heroes of this doomed world stem the tide of blood that is to come? Join the Avengers, Blade, Bloodline, Spider-Man, Hunter's Moon, Tigra, Doctor Strange, and Clea as the dance of death begins in Bloodhunt number 1. I should say that we have about 15 people signed up for this so far. 0 for the regular edition, 15 for the Red Band edition. You bloodthirsty people.
I find it really interesting. I mean, obviously, I'm looking forward to the 8 additional pages. But if those pages were absolutely critical to the story,
would they be in the normal edition?
They would be in the normal edition.
That's what I wonder. Yeah, I'll be curious to see, but I think the way it's being marketed is that if you want the complete story, you have to get the Red Band edition.
Yeah. Okay.
And in fairness, there is only $1 difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's here's a $5 number 1 or here's a $9 Red Band edition.
I mean, I would imagine. I mean, I don't. All those 8 pages won't all be together. They'll be slotted through the issue, and there'll probably be continuations of scenes that just are more gory, that sort of thing. So.
I would say so. So the main series, as we say, does kick off in May. So plenty of time still to sign up for that.
Yeah, so as Alan says there, and we talked about in the intro, there are a stack of tie-ins and one-shots and such, so I'm just going to go through the ones that are kind of interesting me, and there's a couple that are really standing out in this particular month. One is Midnight Suns, Bloodhunt, number 1 of 3 by Brian Hill and German Peralta. Brian Hill is currently on Blade and doing fantastic work on it. There is a variant cover by our buddy Declan. And this is the return of the Midnight Suns. The original Midnight Suns reunite to deal with the vampire threat unleashed in Bloodhunt. But first, they have to defeat one of their own, Blade. So that's why Brian Hill's writing it. The Midnight Suns are a cool team, really cool team from the 90s. Supernatural superheroes. They were brought together by Doctor Strange and had various iterations, but usually included one or other of the Ghost Riders, the Spirit of Vengeance. It was either Danny Ketch or Johnny Blaze. Blade was in there. Morbius was in there. They were originally formed in the Ghost Rider series in the Midnight Suns arc, and it was pretty cool stuff. I really enjoyed that book. Frank Drake was sometimes in there. Hannibal King. That's the first time I ever saw him. And so lots of Iron Fist, I think, was in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So various iterations, and of course that became like a computer game, didn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Last year, I think.
Midnight Suns. So yeah, that's one that I'm really interested in. And then the other one that's really jumping out at me is I have a weakness for Union Jack, who is a British superhero, as you might expect, but not in the same way that Captain Britain is. Union Jack was originally it was the All Winners Squad, or one of Captain America's World War II guys, and he was at that time he was one of the Falsworths. He was a lord and all of that sort of stuff. But the modern day Union Jack is a working class guy called Joey Chapman, and he's about for decades now. And the book is Union Jack the Ripper, Blood Hunt, #1 of 3. It's by Cavan Scott. Cavan Scott's associated with the Star Wars High Republic stuff,
Yeah.
if I recall. And Kev Walker. And we've got a cover by Ryan Brown, a bunch of variant covers. Union Jack paints the UK red. As vampires inherit the earth, one lone man has made his mission to protect it. But what does Joey Chapman, Union Jack, have up his sleeves? And will it be enough? And who will Union Jack have to face to keep London from falling? Cavan Scott and Kev Walker bring you a Union Jack story like you've never seen before. Yeah, I mean, I love Union Jack. He is the British vampire hunter, the British version of Blade. So very
Kev
much.
Walker, he was the artist on Guardians.
Yes,
recently. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, one thing I will say about this, I think you said the Blood Hunt was going to total like 60 issues or something.
That includes one shots and
tie-ins and so on. But what's interesting is that there's clearly lots of content here, because every one of these is 40 pages. Union Jack the Ripper's the only one that's not. It's 32.
Yeah,
But then Blood Hunters, 40 pages.
That's an anthology, actually. That's
Black Panther, 40 pages. So clearly this is a big story.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Pretty huge. Also interested to see Strange Academies appearing there. Now, it's not by the original creative team, so I don't know if I'm going to hit it, but yeah, Strange Academy, Blood Hunt is an interesting one as well.
But they're lulling you in with that Humberto Ramos cover as if to say,
they certainly are.
Honestly, guys, it's the same. And it's 40 pages.
Spider-Man is part of Blood Hunt. He's got his own 3-part series, and Amazing Spider-Man number, I think, 48 and 49 are tie-ins. But what isn't a tie-in is Amazing Spider-Man number 50. Zeb Wells with Marv Wolfman, Nikesh Shikula and more, Ed McGuinness with Terry Dodson and more, and an Ed McGuinness cover, a Greg Capullo cover, variant, all sorts of variant covers there.
But that Capullo cover is nice.
But it is lovely, isn't it? Worth mentioning, because guess who's back?
Again.
The Green Goblin returns in this landmark and massive issue of Amazing Spider-Man that boasts not only a double-sized main story, but some instant Spider-Man classics by legends and legends to be. The sins of Norman Osborn have found their way home, and Norman shows his true colours, green. But is it truly that simple? Spidey and Gobby's brutal fight is one for the ages, and you don't want to miss this ending. Plus, Marv Wolfman returns to Spider-Man. Nikesh Kula tells a story that will stay with you for a very long time, and more. So that's 80 pages. It's coming in at that chunky 10-pounder, but it is Amazing Spider-Man 50. And this, obviously, it's comics. Green Goblin, Norman Osborn was always going to return to be Spider-Man's arch villain, but
much as he fights it,
the story the arc he has been on,
Yeah.
the Gold Goblin stuff, the Sin Eater stuff, right the way back. It's been really lovely. It's been a really great arc, but I'm looking forward to seeing him back in the place where he belongs.
Yeah,
And I suppose that's us as suckers for the status quo, I suppose.
It's a lovely main cover there as well from Ed McGuinness, who's obviously doing a lot of the interior art as well. So yeah, that'll probably be square bound as well. When with Spidey, admittedly, they do charge bigger prices for these big editions, but they are always square bound and nicer cardstock covers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, the Ultimate Universe continues as well. There's a continuation through here of Black Panther, X-Men, Spider-Man. I think the recently announced Ultimates will probably fall into the next previews catalog. But moving away from all the Blood Hunt stuff in the Ultimate Universe, there's still plenty to enjoy in this one. The next one being Venom Separation Anxiety #1 of 5. So this is falling under that new sort of Marvel label of retro pick.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is going back into pre-established continuities with classic creators telling new stories in those continuities. So
bound to be David Michelinie, is it?
How did you know?
Yes.
How did you know? So David Michelinie writing, Gerardo Sandoval on art, and it is Venom Separation Anxiety #1 of 5. Long live the King in Purple. Amazing Spider-Man legend and Venom co-creator David Michelinie triumphantly returns to tell another all-new, heart-pounding, brain-eating tale set in Eddie Brock's earliest days. This time he's teaming up with Venom and Death of the Venomverse artist extraordinaire Gerardo Sandoval. Venom has made a new enemy, and their bond will be tested like never before when a foe with the power to alter reality itself threatens to tear Eddie's world apart, starting with his symbiote. So yeah, those retro ones are really good. They recently did a Lethal Protector #2, which went down very, very well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So those are always good. Next up is one definitely in synergy with the movie releasing of this year.
Of course.
Of
the
course.
only, I
I'm
guess,
pretty
Marvel
sure.
movie release.
There's sort of a lot of talk that Deadpool 3 is essentially going to be Deadpool kills the 20th Century Fox universe
Right.
instead of Deadpool kills the
Okay.
Marvel universe.
Because he does proclaim himself to be Marvel Jesus.
Exactly. That he does. So what we have is a 3-issue series called Deadpool and Wolverine World War III #1. I think Keith had alluded to it in the intro as well with Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly is certainly, I think when Rob Liefeld created Deadpool, he was a much more serious character. I don't think there was all the fourth wall breaking, the comedy. I don't think a lot of that really existed back then. But anyway, as I say, Keith had alluded to it, Joe Kelly was someone who helped modernize Deadpool and sort of make him into the character that's certainly established through the movies and so forth. Adam Kubert's on board for art here, so you know this is going to be a gorgeous looking comic. There is a variant by Rob Liefeld, of course there is.
It's not bad looking. I like it.
Wade Wilson and Logan at the ends of the earth and each other's throats. The most intensely mismatched team up in comics and pop culture, the best there is, and the Merc with the Mouth, undergoes a radical change as we kick off a 3-part globe-spanning saga for the ages. The mysterious Delta believes in change. Change is good, but as he sets his sights on Deadpool and Wolverine is caught up in the plot, is the third time really the charm or the curse? Get ready for World War III to erupt on the scene with the wildest duo in comics from legends Joe Kelly and Adam Kubert. 40-page kickoff #1, and it's also celebrating it's also part of that celebration of 50 years of Logan.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to believe. 50 years. So next up for me is Doom #1 by Jonathan Hickman and Sanford Green, who are co-writing this with Sanford Green on art and covers. There is a beautiful variant cover by Adi Granov for this. Put me down for that. A nice Galactus by George Perez, and the original covered by Sanford Green looks really nice too. In the near future, Doom alone must save the Marvel Universe. Who else? Legendary creators Jonathan Hickman, Ultimate Spider-Man and Gods, and Sanford Green, Bitter Root, send Dr. Doom on a journey unlike any he has undertaken before. With Valeria Richards at his side, his goddaughter, Doom goes on a quest to harness more power than any human has ever wielded before in order to stop Galactus from bringing about the death of the universe. Doom loves questing for power, whether it's stealing the Beyonder's power in Secret Wars. I think he's tried for Galactus before. But yeah, that'll be interesting, especially with Jonathan Hickman in charge, and that is a one-shot, 56 pages. So interesting.
Yeah, glorious preview art for that as well.
Next up for me, something it's maybe a little more violent, especially given where it's come from and who's writing it. We have Helverine #1 of 4. I mean, that's just a fantastic title. Again, probably something to do with the 50th anniversary of Wolverine. By Benjamin Percy, the current writer on Wolverine and also Ghost Rider. And Julius Uta on art. There's a cover by Ryan Stegman here, which looks absolutely fantastic.
No Scotty Young cover though.
There is not. And a lovely Gerardo Sandoval cover. Ride to Hell and Back and Helverine's first ever solo series. Because you demanded it, the return of Helverine. When a demonic force known as Braga Ghul first came to Earth, it brought Logan and Ghost Rider together to hunt it before it possessed Wolverine. But now in the present day, what event will put Helverine back in the streets? And is he slashing his Hellfire claws for good or evil? And introducing an all-new Hellfire Warriors. Don't miss the launch of a new series brought to you by Helverine co-creator Benjamin Percy, Wolverine and Ghost Rider, and blazing hot talent Julius Uta of Alien and Venom. So this is 40 pages and is 4 issues. So nice one.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to variants, I'll be curious to see which ones are incentives or which ones are free to order, because there are a lot of variants here that would appeal, I know, to certain customers in store. You've got one by Mark Texiera, of course, who was well known for Ghost Rider for a number of years.
Yeah.
You've got a Kevin Eastman variant cover, co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And yes, there's that lovely Scotty Young cover as well. Next up is the stealthiest, sneakiest title in the history of the game. So Marvel at the moment have a little bit of trouble associating with the Punisher. So we just had a Jason Aaron Punisher run where he ended up becoming the leader of the Hand, swapped out the guns for swords, which of course are so much less violent. And that was a 12-issue series, but it was really, really good. And then it left Frank in a weird place where he then sort of went off into the dark sunset in a way. Then they came up with a new 4-issue series, which introduced a new character as the Punisher. But they've almost tried to get away from the violent past of the Punisher and everything that character represents. And there was probably no more famous writer on it or no more revered run on it than when Garth Ennis was in charge certainly through the Marvel Max line. But we've got a title called Get Fury, number 1 of 5. This may as well be a Punisher book. It's so stealthily done. Well done, Garth. A tip of the hat to you. Written by Garth Ennis, art by Jason Burrows. Garth Ennis returns to Marvel with Nick Fury and Frank Castle as you've never seen. I mean, I remember we chatted to Garth Ennis a couple of years ago. He said he had this story in his back pocket.
Yep.
And he knew a really interesting way to do a Frank Castle story, but it didn't have to be modern day. And here we are.
Here we go.
It's 1971. There is a war raging in Vietnam, and Nick Fury has been captured by the Viet Cong. At this moment, they don't quite understand that they have in their possession a man who knows enough secrets to damage the United States beyond comprehension. The CIA, however, does realize this, and they can't risk their enemy getting those secrets, so they dispatch the most deadly man in the US Army, Frank Castle. This is going to be fantastic. Jason Burrows, longtime collaborator with Garth Ennis. It's going to look great. It's got a lovely homage cover there to Amazing Spider-Man 129, first appearance of the Punisher, with Nick Fury in the Punisher's sights instead of Spider-Man, done by Dave Johnson, I believe. Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to this, but I love how Garth Ennis has sneaked in a Punisher book under the name Get Fury.
I like a bit of Nick Fury as well.
Yeah, well, we spoke about that as well in a recent reviews pod, I think. As Keith said, Avengers Twilight, a title I certainly am really, really enjoying, comes to an end this month as well. That's worth keeping an eye out for. What else have we got?
So taking it from the violence and blood of Garth Ennis and Fury and Punisher, we're going for a little love. And that's the X-Men Wedding Special number 1. It's written by Kieran Gillen, Yoon Ha Lee, and M. Lewis, and more. And the artist is yet to be announced in this particular previews issue. There is a variant cover by Russell Dodderman, who is well known for the Hellfire Gala stuff and all the designs he did there. So this is a wedding extravaganza. Mystique and Destiny are one of the most beloved and longest running gay couples in history. Somewhere in their 100+ years together, the pair married, but we've never seen the event on the page. This year, Marvel Voices Pride makes history with Marvel's first woman-to-woman wedding in a story by superstar X-Men scribe Kieran Gillen. And with a couple as complex as these two, there's a lot more to the story. We promise party crashing, villainy, romance. In the classic tradition of Fantastic Four Annual 3 and X-Men 30, this anthology will be a must-read for every comics fan, featuring the Marvel debuts of award-winning writers Yoon Ha Lee, 9 Fox Gambit, Machineries of Empire, and M. Lewis, Agents of the Realm, and much more talent to be announced. It's an 88-page one-shot, and I'll be looking forward to that. I mean, given the stuff that Cy Spurrier did with Mystique and Destiny and Nightcrawler and X-Men Blue quite recently.
It was like an X-Men Blue Origins book
yeah,
or something,
yeah, exactly. I'm surprised it's not him on it, but very, very happy to see his...
well, it does say and more. So there's still a chance.
Yeah, but very happy to see his contemporary Kieran Gillen on it. Another big 50, we had ASM, Amazing Spider-Man 50 coming up, but the big one is Wolverine 50, which, as we mentioned, is 50 issues, but also celebrating 50 years of the Clawed Mutant, Logan himself. It's by Benjamin Percy and Victor LaValle with Larry Hama and more. Corey Smith, Jeff Shaw, Avi Fernandez, Daniel Picciotto, and others are on art, and we've got a Lionel Francis Yu cover, amongst many, many, many others. So a raft of variant covers there. Stegman here as well.
Yeah, I really like that Justin Mason snicked variant.
Yeah, very nice. Cool. It's a wee bit, it's almost Scotty Youngish.
Yeah, Marco Cicchetto doing some art there as well. So yeah, some lovely covers there.
So Wolverine 50, Creed versus Logan, the final showdown. Will it be the final showdown? Not so sure. It's all come down to this, the final battle between Wolverine and Sabretooth. The Sabretooth War concludes in the way it began, a violent, bloody battle, but who will be left standing? Plus, special short stories celebrating 50 issues of the run and 50 years of Wolverine, from legendary Logan scribes, including Larry Hama, as well as a final send-off from Benjamin Percy and Javi Fernandez and some special surprises. So, is this Benjamin Percy's last hurrah on Wolverine?
I mean, 50 issue run is impressive while simultaneously doing a 20 issue run on Ghost Rider, and he's certainly been very, very busy at Marvel. I think I've been following Benjamin Percy online, and he's dipping his toe into film directing.
Right. Okay.
I think he's doing a self-funded film.
Okay.
So I think he might be maybe branched out a little bit. So it would, timing wise, it would make sense. But yeah, as you say, 50 issues of Wolverine. I mean, I think the X line in general is about to be massively rejigged.
I think it is. Yeah.
Obviously, 50 is a great round number to finish off on. And I mean, obviously, this month is Fall of the House of X number 5. And Rise of the Powers of 10 number 5, which brings to an end those two titles as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And
as an X-Men fan, you must be both curious and excited for what comes next.
Well, I really enjoyed the Krakoan era. I really enjoy a shift in status quo that takes and stays there. I mean, yeah, I'm interested to see what comes next. I hope it's not just a return to the mansion and the old status quo, but
I think that's because you have said so many times. I can't see it ever going back to the mansion because it changed so dramatically.
It did, and it was almost like a... So yeah, let's see what happens. But yeah, as you say, Fall of the House of X at number 5, Jerry Dugan, Lucas Wernick. It all comes down to this: Orchis versus the X-Men. Winner take the future. Orchis has pushed mutant kind to their lowest point ever, but that just means the X-Men have to fight back like never before. Will it be enough? We continue to barrel towards the conclusion of the Krakoan Age as two stories that are one come to an end. And that other story is the rise of the Powers of X, number 5, by Kieran Gillen and R.B. Silva. The X epic concludes in a battle between those who are outside time and that which is now and forever. And the result is being decided by whether someone can ultimately make the right choice. The end of the Krakoan Age barrels our way as the two series that are one conclude. So plenty going on in the X corner, yeah.
Nice. And well, who would have thunk it? This is very much a big moment. Here is myself recommending a Star Wars title.
What?
Now, I am unashamedly a big fan of The Phantom Menace.
I don't think there's anything to be ashamed about. I think The Phantom Menace has aged well.
It's the best of the prequels, I personally think.
I think the prequel series has aged well.
Yeah.
It's the lightest of the prequels.
Yeah.
And then they get darker.
Yeah, progressively darker. Yeah. The fall of Anakin, totally understandable.
So I mean,
for me though, the Phantom Menace, there's more of it filmed on real sets and things like that. By the time you get to Revenge of the Sith, so much of it is green screen, it's unreal. But I have a big love for the Phantom Menace. Interestingly, as we record this at sort of 9:30 at night, I watched the last half an hour of Phantom Menace today.
Oh, really?
So I was looking for stuff to keep Alfie occupied, visually. And I was flicking through Disney Plus, and I saw Phantom Menace, and I went, "Oh, Duel of the Fates, that's bound to keep him interested. It's fast paced, it's colorful, the music's great." And he stared at that TV for a good 2 or 3 minutes, which I see as a victory. But no, I love the Phantom Menace show. I remember, this is another story for you kids out there. I saw this 6 months before anybody else because I happened to be in Florida when it came out. And back in those days, back in the winds of time, it used to be that movies came out in America a good 3 to 6 months ahead of coming out in the UK. There weren't these simultaneous worldwide releases. Of course, back then the internet wasn't as prevalent, so it was easy to avoid spoilers and so forth. But this is all basically to tie into a comic that's been announced, which is the Star Wars Phantom Menace 25th Anniversary Special. So it's written by Greg Pak, who straight away, current Darth Vader writer, been a Star Wars writer for a long time. Mm-hmm. Local artist, Will Sliney on art.
Oh, wow.
And the cover is gorgeously rendered by Phil Noto as well. So celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace with an all-new story. Explore the earliest days and secret inner life of Anakin Skywalker with never-before-seen revelatory stories set before, after, and between the scenes of the classic movie. Featuring the dream of a Jedi, the gift of a Tusken Raider, the heart of a Gungan, the ache of a mother, and the horror of a hero. So, yeah, I have a real soft spot for Phantom Menace. I do think it's so much better than people give it credit for, and therefore that really, really interests me. Next up, just a couple of collections to finish off from myself. So the first one being Godzilla, the original Marvel Years Omnibus. I did not even know Marvel did Godzilla comics, but I love me some Godzilla comics.
You do, yeah.
So written by Doug Moench, drawn by Herb Trimpe and Tom Sutton.
Wow, what a team.
So that is a team right there. This is collecting Godzilla, which was released in 1977, issues 1 to 24. Godzilla, the towering scourge of Tokyo, rises from the depths in the United States and the Marvel Universe. For 2 glorious years in the 70s, Japan's greatest export was one of Marvel's biggest stars, marching across America and battling some of the best and brightest the House of Ideas had to offer, including the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the Champions, Nick Fury, and the mechanized monster fighter Red Ronin. Godzilla Goes West travels through time to battle Devil Dinosaur and hosts one of Spider-Man's most gratuitous guest shots ever.
Yeah.
But when Godzilla is shrunk down to miniature size, the terrible titan proves it can still be a tiny terror. Plus, aliens, mutants, mad scientists, and epic kaiju clashes with Godzilla's fellow towering titans, including Batragon and Yetragar. This just sounds awesome. I didn't even know these were a thing. But you look at those original covers done by Herb Trimpe back in the day. Even the modern cover is really cool as well.
Lovely, yeah.
But yeah, that level of talent involved, and it just sounds creatively so interesting. And including obviously the Marvel Universe in it as well, just adds a little bit extra spice as well. One run that we've talked about loads in the reviews pod, and definitely worth throwing out there for anybody who missed it, is the Moon Knight by Jed MacKay Omnibus. So it's maybe a little bit uncommon for such recent runs to be collected so quickly, but it's maybe not surprising in this case because this is one of the best Moon Knight runs I think ever. Written by Jed MacKay and Danny Lohr, drawn by Alessandro Capuccio, predominantly with a couple of other artists. So this collects the Moon Knight run 1 to 30, plus the Devil's Reign Moon Knight one shot, Moon Knight Annual #1, and material from the Moon Knight Annual #1 from 2023 and Avengers 45. So it's a chunky bad boy, 832 pages, it's 35 issues, $100 price point. It is a little bit of an advanced solicit, not out until October, but that is well worth your time if you didn't catch the original single issue.
So, yeah.
And then I'm just going to finish off with something that I have in about 3 different ways in my collection, but I just think it's definitely worth throwing out there to anybody who's maybe not had the chance to read it yet. But Marvel have been doing these great things recently. They're doing modern era epic collections. So for a long time, epic collections were collections of, stories back from the Stan Lee era, the Steve Ditko era, John Romita Sr. era, that kind of thing. But they're doing these modern era epic collections, which are some of the best stories of maybe the last 20 to 25 years. So there's already some cool ones in here, like New X-Men from Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, Hawkeye from Jim McCann and Dwayne Sarachinsky. But the main one that stands out for me this month is the Captain America Modern Era Epic Collection, which is the Winter Soldier trade paperback. This is volume 1 in the Captain America Modern Era Epic Collection, written by Ed Brubaker, drawn predominantly by Steve Epting and Michael Lark, but you've also got John Paul Leon, Lee Weeks, Mike Perkins. Jesus, just a murderer's row of talent. Javier Pulido and Marcos Martin. So just in case you don't know it, with the Winter Soldier, the shocking murder of the Red Skull leaves an unfinished cosmic cube at large. Adding to the imminent danger, a cadre of the Skull's followers plan to ignite bombs in the hearts of Paris, London, and Manhattan. Racing against a rapidly ticking clock, Captain America must solve the mystery of his nemesis murder and find the cube before it can be used to rewrite reality. But there's a lethal assassin on the loose, with an all too familiar face. Cap's suspicions about Winter Soldier will soon be answered in the most brutal way possible, tearing open old wounds and threatening to carve new scars that will never heal.
Wow.
Yeah, collects Captain America 1 to 17 and the #1 Director's Cut and the Captain America 65th Anniversary Special. So they come in at really fair price points, $45, so about £40 for nearly 500 pages of possibly the best ever Captain America story.
Very much up there, very much up there. I mean, we did an episode a while back comparing,
deep dive one.
Yep.
Yeah, because for me anyway, it also inspired to date still the best MCU movie in Winter Soldier.
Agreed. And we're also finding that was also inspired by Nick Fury versus S.H.I.E.L.D.
Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely brilliant edition of Captain America there. If you've never had the pleasure of reading that, first of all, I envy you to discover it for the first time. But that is absolutely essential, reading some of the best comics of the last 30 years.
Yeah, so exciting. I remember getting it issue to issue. It was so good. So good.
Nice. So that's the Marvel book, as we obviously alluded to in the intro. Much chunkier, much more to sink your teeth into. See what I did there because of Bloodhunt?
I see what you did.
Than the DC book, but yeah, loads of good stuff in there as well. So that's DC done. That's Marvel done. Let's jump into the indie stuff. And of course, with it being indie, despite previews moving them to further in the book, we'll always start with Image.
Yeah, we will. And we're going to start with a creative team who we are huge fans of. And that creative team are none other than Scotty Young and Jorge Corona in a miniseries premiere. for Ain't No Grave, #1. The Eisner Award-winning writer Scotty Young and Eisner Award-nominated artist Jorge Corona, the team behind the hit series Middle West and The Me You Love in the Dark, are back together with an all-new miniseries, Ain't No Grave. This Unforgiven-style journey is an original macabre Western fantasy tale for mature readers, told through a Guillermo del Toro-esque lens. Writer put her violent past behind her when she fell in love and became a mother, but that was before she learned it was all going to be taken away. Now she'll have to pick her guns up once again and ride to kill the one who's behind the threat, which just happens to be death. This genre-bending adventure begins with this double-sized first issue with 40 pages of story and no ads. And Ain't No Grave can hold my body down.
I was going to say, how many buzzwords are aimed at you right there?
Yep.
Western, fantasy, Del Toro-esque, Middle West.
Yeah, the whole lot. Whole lot.
One thing after another.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
so good.
I mean, Middle West is just a phenomenal book. Highly, highly recommended. There is a compendium that collects all 18 issues into one. Speaking of creative teams that we will always follow, the next one is from myself, and that is because it's written by Rick Remender. He's actually a co-writer in this one along with Brian Posehn, with art by Brett Parson and Moreno Dionisio. And this is a book called Grommets. This is going to be a 7-issue miniseries. Kicks off with the premiere of two best friend outcasts who navigate the Sacramento suburbs of 1984, where they find a home in the skateboard culture and punk rock. On one side of the coin, Grommets is an authentic look at 80s skate culture, a snapshot of a generation that turned skating into a worldwide phenomenon. On the other, it's a heartfelt coming-of-age story that follows two friends from troubled homes as they navigate their damage in an era when no one cared. So I have a feeling there's going to be some autobiographical elements through that, to say the least. And then the other main thing we want to cover from Image is a couple of collections. The first one being Transformers Volume 1, Robots in Disguise, as if it was going to be called anything else.
What's that now? Transformers, you say?
Transformers by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer, I say. So all 6 issues of the first story arc. The Transformers join the Energon universe. Optimus Prime was supposed to have led the Autobots to victory. Instead, the fate of Cybertron is unknown, and his allies have crash-landed far from home alongside their enemies, the Decepticons. As these titanic forces renew their war on Earth, one thing is immediately clear: the planet will never be the same. New alliances are struck, battle lines are redrawn, and humanity's only hope of survival is Optimus Prime. Superstar creator Daniel Warren Johnson, alongside showrunner Robert Kirkman, reimagines Hasbro's Robots in Disguise for a brand new generation. As well as the main cover for this, which is your traditional Daniel Warren Johnson cover, there will also be a direct market exclusive cover by John Boy Myers, which will only be printed once. They are both the same price as well. But one other one I just wanted to throw a bit of love out for is the Universal Monsters Dracula hardcover.
So good.
Again, creative teams. You know, you have the creative team of Department of Truth reuniting here. James Tynion IV on writing duties and Martin Simmons on art. They reteamed to tell a new tale of the monster who started it all. When Dr. John Seward admits a strange new patient named Renfield into his asylum, the madman tells stories of a demon who has taken residence next door. But as Dr. Seward attempts to apply logic to the impossible, his daughter falls under the spell of the twisted Count Dracula. Same again, they seem to be doing this more and more, actually. This is definitely a recent thing where there is going to be a direct market exclusive variant cover for trades. Yep. So you're going to have the traditional cover, which is Martin Simmons, but there's also a direct market exclusive cover by Stephanie Pepper that again will only be printed once. So they're really playing on that whole FOMO element.
Well, they're also supporting you guys.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, which is nice.
That is true. So that is Universal Monsters Dracula hardcover.
Can we swing towards Dark Horse for a moment?
Yes, we can.
And you talk about creative teams reuniting. We have David Embore and Drew Zucker reuniting for Kanto, A Place Like Home, #1. The finale series to the Shrouded Man saga begins at Dark Horse Comics. The tiny Clockwork Knight returns after making the ultimate choice to save his people above all else. He has amassed allies in the war against the Shrouded Man, but even an army may not be enough to stop the evil sorcerer's quest to conquer Kanto's people. Fighting to save New Arcana won't be easy, but nothing ever is for the brave Kanto. Fan favourite comic fantasy continues with the miniseries Kanto, A Place Like Home by Eisner and GLAAD nominated writer David Embore and fan favourite artist Drew Zucker, both friends of the show who we interviewed early on in their Kanto run. Kanto's coming to an end.
It is. It is. I mean, we were obviously fortunate enough as well to have David over to the store for a signing. Thoroughly lovely bloke. He shared one or two little secrets regarding the last one. And as you mentioned as well, with Swinging the Dark Horse, it's a new home for Canty.
It is, yeah.
It was IDW before, but I believe Dark Horse are going to be doing some new editions of the earlier volumes and some nice hardcovers as well.
Oh, very nice.
So definitely keep an eye out for those as well. And sticking with Dark Horse, one that I thought I would throw a bit of love out for is Anansi Boys #1. This is written by Neil Gaiman and Mark Bernardin, and art by Sean Martinborough. So New York Times bestselling author Neil Gaiman joins forces with Eisner-nominated Adora writer Mark Bernardin and Thief of Thieves co-creator Sean Martinborough to adapt Gaiman's Locus and British Fantasy award-winning novel as a comic book series for the first time, and soon to be a television show on Amazon Prime. Fat Charlie Nancy leads a boring life as a boring Londoner, until he discovers two things: that his recently deceased father was, in fact, Anansi the Spider, the trickster god of African folklore, and that he has a twin brother he's never met, which kicks off a reality-spanning odyssey of sibling rivalry, jealous deities, and one poor soul who realise what it means to be a god. So one for the Gaiman fans out there, of which there are many. Moving across from there, we've even got a title from Dynamite for this one. He talks a lot about his love of cult heroes, and that definitely is applicable here. This is written by David P. Post, who recently did Punisher with Marvel, and a few other things. Art by Jonathan Lau. And this is the return of Space Ghost. The legendary guardian of the Spaceway is returning. Greed and corruption flourish in the darkness between stars. With the territories of the Galactic Federation spread far and wide across the vastness of space, pirates and hijackers ransack the distant colonies with cruel disregard for the innocent scientists living within them. Yet there is a cosmic vigilante who metes out justice throughout the galaxy, bringing vengeance to those who prey upon the defenseless. Some say he is a policeman who has abandoned the structures of the law. Others say he is a phantom, the sole survivor of a war-torn planet. And those who have survived his wrath claim he is more of a force of nature, able to bend the very elements of creation to decimate his enemies. They call him Space Ghost, and his adventures begin here. Award-winning writer David P. Post and superstar artist Jonathan Lau kick off this action-packed series with a surprise attack on the space colony Omicron, home of the brilliant scientist Dr. Jared Kepler and his young children, Jan and Jace, as well as their pet monkey Blip. With the colony's defenses overwhelmed, all seems lost, but these ruthless pirates didn't count on the wild card that is Space Ghost. That actually sounds really class.
All I know about Space Ghost is his Cartoon Network series back in the late 90s, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, where he was kind of a radio disc jockey. It's kind of weird, if I recall. But yeah, I'm not familiar with the history of Space Ghost or any of that crack, so maybe worth looking into.
I would say so. So that is something from Dynamite. What about IDW?
IDW. What's worth mentioning is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha, and that's worth mentioning because it's the first issue that Jason Aaron will be taking over. So written by Jason Aaron and Tom Waltz, with art by Chris Burnham and Gavin Smith. Chris Burnham was the artist in Die Die Die.
Yeah,
is that right? We're with Kirkman. What's the world like without the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Since their time-spanning victory over Armageddon, the Turtles have started to pursue other interests, leaving a void in New York amongst humans and mutants alike. This special issue explores the effects this change has on those connected to the brothers, from Old Hob to Jenica, across the 5 boroughs and all the way through Mutant Island. It's hard to tell how important someone is until they're gone, and who better to write such a story than Tom Waltz, the man who scripted the first 100 issues of IDW series and the co-writer of The Last Ronin, and returning TMNT artist Gavin Smith. Also get your first glimpse of what is coming in a special prequel to the new TMNT #1, written by superstar scribe Jason Aaron and drawn by white-hot artist Chris Burnham. Donatello has a hard time since he came back from the future, and he's found himself in an unexpected place. So it looks like that Alpha issue is going to be the bridging point between the old Turtle series and the new Turtle series, and therefore it looks like it's largely written by Tom Waltz, and then the special prequel glimpse will be by Jason Aaron. So that's a little bit cheeky, I think, but I'll probably pick it up.
Bridge between the two. It's not a bad way of doing it, and I suppose they're being.
Well, it's a little bit cheeky because I get excited about Jason Aaron and Chris Burnham, but that's only in that little glimpse.
I suppose it depends how long that glimpse is.
Yeah.
But sticking with Turtles, actually, one that I hadn't noted down, but I definitely think it's worth talking about. Obviously, Marvel and DC have recently been doing these anthology books, Black, White, and Red, Harley Quinn, Venom, Carnage, whatever. But they announced this was one that Declan Shelby, had referred to in his newsletter for a long time as Project Emerald. He always gives his unannounced projects little names. But what it is it's TMNT Black, White, and Green #1. So this is going to be an anthology book in that same way. The Turtles are celebrating 25 years as well. And IDW is celebrating 25 years, beg your pardon. And they're doing this anthology book, which Deck is involved with. So it's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like you've never seen them before. This special series gathers up some of comics' most eclectic and exciting talent to bring their takes on TMNT to the page, taking the characters back to their origins in black and white independent comics, but with a touch of green. Thrilled to all new adventures by the likes of Paulina Gaunchow, Declan Shelby, and more. So a wee 44-page anthology book, which it's like the other Black, White, and Red ones, will probably run 4 issues. It really is just an episode here of anniversaries, because now we have Godzilla 70th anniversary special, and that is being released through IDW. So we're going to be getting a 100-page 70th anniversary special. I know there's quite a few Godzilla fans in the store. Celebrating 70 years of Godzilla, since 1954, Godzilla has been king of the monsters, and what better way to celebrate than with a gigantic anthology of tales that get to the heart of Godzilla's lasting popularity. From the American Old West to modern Tokyo and beyond, this collection features stories of the king of monsters fighting with its allies like Mothra against old enemies like the terrible Mecha Godzilla, and reshaping the lives of all who fall in its path. 9 titanic stories by first-time and beloved Godzilla creators alike, including Joelle Jones, Michael Conrad, Matt Frank, James Stokoe, Adam Gorham, Dan DiDio, and many more. So ton of people involved with that. Some lovely covers for it as well. And as I say, there's quite a few Godzilla fans in the store, so I think that will definitely appeal to them.
Cool. Keeping with monsters, we're just going to shift into Caliber Entertainment here for just a moment, because they have H.P. Lovecraft, the Call of Cthulhu graphic novel, written by slightly problematic H.P. Lovecraft and Stephen Philip Jones, with art and cover art by Trey Baldwin. An all-new authorized adaptation of one of H.P. Lovecraft's most popular weird tales. Professor George Angel spent decades researching the time-scattered clues of a mysterious cult. Then suddenly Angel died. Or was he killed? Francis Thurston insists on finding out what really happened and believes Angel's research is the key. A lonesome, abominable secret that has driven those who have learned it to madness or suicide. But insanity and death peel to the ravening, eons-old horror patiently waiting to be released upon humanity. Mature themes, obviously. It's 76 pages. It's black and white, but it is Call of Cthulhu, which is one of my favourite stories.
Yeah, that was one I'd actually picked out for Keith. I just, again, buzzwords. Cthulhu, Lovecraft.
Done.
Speaking of things that might appeal to Keith, we move on then to a graphic novel collection from Ablaze Comics. This is written by Darko McCann, and artist on it is Igor Kordy. This is the creative team behind Marvel's Cable, The End, and Soldier X. This comes a tale extrapolated from the real life of the first black deputy U.S. Marshal.
Oh, Bass Reeves.
Yeah, so we're going into the Wild West here. So set in the tumultuous aftermath of the American Civil War, River Bass is drawn into a career path he had never expected: law enforcement. While he accepts the badge with an eye towards equality and justice, will the cruelty of the world allow him these ideals? Marshal Bass Volume 1 contains 3 intertwined adventures. First, when a gang earns the attention of the U.S. Marshal Service, River Bass is recruited by Colonel Helena to infiltrate their ranks. While trying to keep his cover and accomplish his mission, he's confronted by the reality of the gang members' individual circumstances, goals, and outcomes, all weighed against his future as a U.S. Marshal. Next, an investigation of a serial murderer goes awry when Marshal Bass confronts more killers than he bargained for. A whole family of killers, in fact. Further, while trying to escape desperate circumstances, he finds himself drawn to the daughter of the murderous clan. Then, when one of their daughters runs off with a young man, Bass is pressed by his wife to find her and bring her home. But the job becomes more complicated when the man in question becomes a murderer. Further, this man without a name may have greater ties to Bass than initially assumed. I mean, just looking at that preview art, the sunsets, the horse riding, this looks right up your
absolutely.
Right up your
There was a recent TV series, a mini series about Bass Reeves. I can't remember what channel or streaming service it was on, but it's one that I keep meaning to have a wee look at.
Fair enough. So we're going to finish off just from myself anyway with 2 titles from Mad Cave Studios, which again is not usually a studio I would normally look too much at, but they seem to be getting a bit more prominence in the previews book. There's some previews art, and they do seem to be attracting some great creators. So there's 2 titles I want to highlight. One's a 5-issue miniseries, the other is 4 issues. The 5-issue series is called Sanction, with the tagline of No Truth, No Justice. It's written by Ray Fox and art by Antonio Fuso. So the story goes Leningrad, 1987. When a woman's corpse is discovered on New Year's Day, a hungover detective, Pavel Smirnov, hands off the case to his partner, Detective Boris Dmitrovich, hoping he'll close it without fuss. Instead, Dmitrovich uncovers a connection to an old, unsolved crime, dragging them both into an investigation that puts their careers and possibly their lives at risk. You know, I love me a good murder detective story.
Yes, you do.
I do think it's a really interesting setting for it as well, with Leningrad, 1987. And then the other book, this looks great. This just looks so stylish, it's unreal. It's a title called Mugshots, number 1 of 4. Blood is thicker than water, especially when you're drowning in it. Written by Jordan Thomas and art by Chris Matthews. And again, talk about interesting locations to set it. Brighton, UK, 2008.
So I'm going to be there in May.
The kidnapping of a young woman starts a chain of events that will set con artists, gangsters, killers, and corrupt police on a collision course of violence. Meet John Bannon, self-proclaimed bastard and loving uncle, in this tale of family trauma, betrayal, murder, and revenge that threatens to bring the city's whole underworld down. It's got this really class, stylish art, lots of blue, deep blues and blacks. It's almost quite Darwin Cookian looking.
Yeah, I see that.
Which I really like the look of. And again, the covers just scream, pick me, pick me. And Mad Cave are celebrating 10 years this year as well, just to throw in more celebrations years. So that is everything from myself, but why don't you bring us home?
I will bring us home with Boom. We have Boom's Gem of the Month, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, so it's hard to look past, and that's Crocodile Black, number 1 of 5, illustrated by Somnath Pal. We've got an Andre Sorrentino cover and a Christian Ward cover, with Philip Kennedy Johnson returning to Boom Studios. What makes someone turn to crime, especially in modern pandemic-riddled dystopia? Danny, a seemingly mundane young man lost in escapism with a spiraling lack of control over his life, witnesses something during a delivery job that will change him forever, turning things as dark as the black crocodile skin books that he can't take his eyes off of. In this criminal thriller, perfect for fans of Kill or Be Killed and a righteous thirst for vengeance. Hi, Alan. Eisner Award-winning nominated writer Philip Kennedy Johnson, Superman and the Incredible Hulk, and rising star artist Somnath Pal Briggins give birth to an infamous new criminal lead in the tradition of Elmore Leonard. Wow.
Lots of great buzzwords there
yeah,
again.
Absolutely.
And as you say, PKJ, can't go wrong.
Oh, 100%. And from the start of a 5-issue miniseries to the end of a 15-issue series, we have the end of
Once Upon a Time at the End of the World.
Very much so. So this is Jason Aaron's, I guess, post-apocalyptic. Is it a thriller? Is it a...
For a few issues, it was basically just like a giant love-in and ode to the 60s of free love and, you know, what utopia could be and rebuilding the world, and then it all went to hell again. And this is a title that, you know, we spoke about it, I think, on one of our reviews pods, but, you know, when we talk about trimming pull lists and this and that, and I've tried to drop this book about 3 or 4 times. And then I'm like, right, I'll give it one more issue. And it's just a brilliant, brilliant book. It's been separated into 3 very definitive 5-issue arcs.
Yeah, it has each with a different artist.
Yeah.
And this last issue brings those artists together.
Yeah.
For the last time, Nick Dragori, Leila De Duca, and Alexandra Tefengi.
Yeah.
The final issue concluding all 3 chapters of the epic post-apocalyptic adventure. As their showdown with the apocalypse-hungry ravagers unfolds, even if Masio and Mezzi do succeed, what will remain for them in such a desolate world after losing so many loved ones and each other? While merely surviving alone is possible, the question will always remain, will they ever see each other again or remain at a distance?
That is going to make an absolutely glorious 15-issue hardcover at some point.
It really is.
You know,
it really is.
It has been a fantastic story, and You know what? It's really weird because I remember
Yes.
really going back after issue 1, I was raving about it, and
And
you
I
were
was
not sure.
really in.
Yeah,
You know,
'cause
and then issue 2 got me, but and I've been just dying for it since.
I haven't looked back since.
Yeah,
so-
whereas you, as you say, I've maybe tried to drop it a couple of times and not quite succeeded.
But it's got its hooks too deep in me, and now I'm in it all the way to the end. And,
And with the finish of that 15-issue series by Jason Aaron from Boom, so finishes our look at the May previews catalogues.
that is a relatively definitive look through the books, but the books, of course, are always available in the store. You'll find them up at the counter along with any sheets for any pull list changes, that kind of thing.
What's the final order cutoff?
So we are looking at, so today's 6th of March, 8th, we're looking at the end of March, so I think you've got a good 3 weeks from now to get your orders in. I think the cutoff point is 29th of March, so plenty of time to get those orders in. We'll have the previews boards in store updated as well, of course, with some of the biggest picks from there. And just get in touch if there's anything you'd like added to the polls. Email us, coffeeandheroes@hotmail.com. Send us a message on Facebook Messenger, Twitter, Instagram. Or as I say, just call into the store and let us know. But yeah, the wallet's not looking too bad. It's just those damn collected editions for me.
Yeah, they're definitely starting to get their hooks into me as well.
So yeah, tons to look forward to there, guys. Hope this proved useful for you as always. Hope you enjoyed our little sojourn through the books. And again, I look forward to hopefully seeing you in store soon. So until next time.
Good night.
So I've been Alan Taylor, and this has been Keith Miller.
You can find Alan in store at Coffee and Heroes most days, and on Twitter, where Alan is Coffee and Heroes 1 and I'm AscaniSun00. Coffee and Heroes is a local comic book store, coffee shop and community hub in Northern Ireland, based at Smithfield Market in the centre of Belfast.
You can also find Coffee and Heroes on Facebook and Instagram, or email us at coffeeandheroes@hotmail.com. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel as well.
Coffee and Heroes podcast is available on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and through all good podcast platforms. Please like and subscribe and leave a review so more people can find us.
And until next time, happy reading and hope to see you in store soon.